So this first hit the shops back in 1977, but you can still get them. They're still knocking around. They've been released now 3 times, new box, and then finally in this version different decals. So let's have a look, because it's first impressions day. Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff. Yes, first impressions day, and we're looking at this, the United States Air Force Fairchild Republic A10A Thunderbolt II in 1:48 scale from Tamiya. Like I say, originally a new tool back in 1977. And what we get is a box which shows some form of desert fighting with 3 of them in convoy and a big explosion. Quite a dramatic bit of artwork, really. Tells us that we've got aircraft series number 28. The wingspan is 365 millimeters, fuselage is 345 millimeters, and the height is 93 millimeters. Ready to assemble precision model kit. Modeling skills helpful if under 10 years of age. Kit contains parts to be assembled into a model, cement and paint not included. As we look at the sides, we have pretty much the same information, other than it gives you the kit number, which is 61028, and then it says star 3300. I'm not quite sure what that bit is, but both the ends are the same. Then on this side piece we have a couple of images. I'm guessing these will be part of our paint schemes. So the 81st TFW, 511th TFS at Bentwaters AFB England, and 23rd TFW, 76th TFS at England AFB Louisiana. And then if we go to this side, we've got an image of a pilot in an ejector seat, some ordnance, and it actually has a little map of where that ordnance goes on the side of the box. So one is an ALQ 119 ECM pod. That's number 1 there, and that's where it goes. So that's quite interesting. I'm sure it's in the instructions as well. So let's have a look inside the box. Now, I bought this from someone, so I don't know if this is complete or in its bags or what. So this may not be how you get it, because it looks like everything has been, or some bits have been undone at least. So what have we got? We've got fuselage half, parts for the tail, I think, wing parts. Yeah, staples have come out. This bag is stapled up. The other fuselage half, then this one is open. Ooh, and our clear parts separate in the box, and one of which has come off. We will have to deal with that. And then we've got our old school fold out instruction manual and decals facing upwards in the box, but from a quick inspection do not look like they are damaged. Right, let's have a look at the instructions. Right then, let's have a look at these instructions. So on the front, we've got a picture of the built model, complete with silver decals. Then we've got a little bit of history in multiple languages. And then if we turn it over, we've got our paint list, we've got some pre-assembly instructions, and a list of proposed tools for building the model. A fairly long list of paints, really, one way or another, but it will include the colours required for the pilot as well. All obviously Tamiya paints. And then in part one, we are putting the two fuselage halves together, which is interesting. And we've got some interior painting to be done. They are giving us the colour, so XF19, which is sky grey. And then we've got a couple of other parts here that they're telling us not to glue. I didn't see, we've not had the construction key though. No, there's no construction key there. Is it right at the end or something daft? They sometimes do that. No, I can't see that there's a construction key. Okay, but it's clearly telling us not to glue. We need to put a weight in, which they're depicting as this cylinder here, and it says not included, 45 to 50 grams. So it's showing that going in there, and then there's another weight there, so I'm guessing that's an additional weight to that one. Don't know. So in step 2, we're building up the engines and our little cockpit, and I'm guessing that's cockpit floor, is it? Don't know, not quite sure. Then step 3, yeah, cockpit floor and fuselage section going in. Then we've got more pieces that go inside the cockpit. On the top there, a couple of aerials and engines going on. So that was quite a simple process for putting the engines in, wasn't it? Then we're building up. So step 4 has got wings being built up. So we're putting on the parts that hold the ordnance and what have you. And then we've got the distinctive tail being put together. And step 5, we're putting the tail and the wings on, a couple of extra bits as well. It's showing you a little side elevation of what E30, that part there, should look like. That sits proud. Step 6, and we're putting together the pilot's seat. So that's got several parts to it, and some quite detailed painting. There's paint instructions for the pilot also. Then we're putting the seat in and whatever that is. And then I guess you've got the option of putting the pilot in the depicting there, and closing up the canopy. Fuselage colour. Right, okay, so the around the canopy is the fuselage colour. And then you've got this, which is I'm guessing the ladder, which you can show that with the cockpit open and the ladder coming out, so that's quite cool. Then we've got the landing gear being assembled, 2-part wheels. Because it's 70s, you've got hubs in the tyres, it's unlikely that they'll be weighted and all that sort of stuff. But again, we've got some nice detailed parts going on there, and paint instructions as we go. Then we're installing it, and it's showing you the option if you want to have the gear bay closed. So that gets us to step 8. And then, hold up, I do hate these gatefold instructions, pain in the bum. 9, and we're doing the landing gear in the wings, and again, option of it being closed, so the wheel isn't fully covered when it's in its elevated position. And then we've got all sorts of bits and pieces going on, aerials and falderel. And the little machine gun thing there that goes in the front. Step 11, I mean, we're all but done then, aren't we? Step 10. Step 11 is building up the ordnance, and it's showing us what colours that all needs to be, so some detailed painting again. Telling us to remove pylons depending on what you're doing. So, yeah, cool. Then step 12 carries on with ordnance, and shows you how to mount them with front elevations as well, and then piling it all on. That's a pretty serious bit of ordnance slung under that, isn't it? So yeah, but also you can put in just the empty pylons by the looks of it as well. Yeah, I'm not sure. There seems to be showing one pylon empty. Not quite sure why that be. Right, so 13 steps in all. Then we've got our paint instructions. So black and white. And yeah, busy because we've got a combination of paint instructions and decals, and there is a lot of decals, stencils and bits and pieces on here, so you have to go through them fairly meticulously to make sure you don't miss anything. And you've got options there, so it's telling you that one or that one, so 1 or 2. Yeah, it's so busy it's difficult to actually see the paint colours. So XF7, that must be on the lights because 7's red, isn't it? So I think this might all be decals. Oh no, there's some colours being pointed out. 14, 56, that's the aluminium, I think, isn't it? Right, 26 is that camouflage. 51 is the dark camouflage. Right, yeah. Yeah, you'll have to go through that carefully, and that is it. That is the instructions done. So a bit busy. So I wouldn't like to say, yeah, they're dead clear. You're going to have to go through them very slowly, very meticulously to make sure you don't miss anything. And there was no build key. How strange. But, right, let's have a look at the decals. So a single sheet of decals, but it's covering a lot, as we saw in the instructions. The decals themselves have quite a bit of backing film. Some of it unavoidable, like where you've got these dots and things like these. I said dots, the stars actually. But there is quite a bit of margin around all of these. Yeah. So these were printed in 1991. So you'd expect, they're not quite to current standards, but probably better than the original 70s ones, I imagine. As always, feel quite thick. The register looks okay, however. And we've got some nice colourful options in there, lots of stencils and bits and pieces, and they are well printed, including all of our little interior stuff. So, yeah, not a bad set of decals, that, actually. Okay, fuselage halves are the first thing that are out of the box. Now, these were loose in my box. I suspect they wouldn't have been loose and they might have been cut off, and I can see some little nubs there where they've been attached to something. But it might have been done in the factory, but I don't think so. So what we've got, well, it's in a green colour. When it's all grey, it's a bit unusual perhaps. And we've got a combination of raised and recessed panel lines. So I'm guessing that's all correct when you've got both. So yeah, looks reasonable. There's no fastener detail in the main other than some large screw heads in this area. And then of course we've got this panel open for the ladder. You can see a little bit of release agent on there, so these will need a good wash. But yeah, that all looks okay. I don't see any major issues. Just a bit of cleanup, and it's a bit of flare out at the end of the mould there that will need cleaning up when you marry the two parts together. Interior detail, you've got some nice quilting and a little stowage case or something in there, so that'll look quite nice when it's painted up. And then you've got nice bolt detail on the inside of there, and some pipework and gas bottles, and they're quite nicely done for the time. Very nicely done for the time. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. The ejector pins, I suspect, will all be hidden, so I don't think we'll have any issues. And as for aligning the parts, there is a pin there, a pin there, and a pin there, so 3 pins in total. That is not many for such a long part to have to marry up. Let's see, so get the tail in. Come on. Yeah. Tail in, middle in. Yeah, it's going to be a bit tricky to line it all up when you're gluing it. There you go. That gives you a good idea of the size of it. 1/48 scale. It's a reasonable machine, isn't it? So our first sprue out is E, and actually we have 2 sprue E's, and most of it is covering off our Ordnance, but we've got some engine parts here, so that's what, you know, there's one engine parts on one and the other on the other. We've also got the wheels, so tyres do have a little bit of radial tread. And we can see it's keyed, but there is no weight on the tyre there. Everything looks smooth and sharp as you would expect. There's a little bit of flash on the sprue, but I can't see that any of that is actually on the parts particularly. There's some seam that's going to have to be cleaned up when you make the parts. There is raised rivet detail on the engine parts, so you're going to have to be very careful with that you don't remove that when putting the 2 cowlings together. That could be problematic. And it's the same with these. We've got lots of raised details there, so hopefully there won't be too much cleanup. Fan detail looks okay. For the time, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with that. Yeah, we flip it over. I don't see any sink or anything in the pylons particularly. There might be. As soon as I said that, I can see in the light that there's a little bit there, but it's so minor I don't think it would get picked up. That's always a possibility with these thicker chunky parts, but no, it all looks like it's good. Right, I'll take some photographs, and at the end of each sprue you can have a closer look. Sprue C next, and we've got the tail parts here, and That's our internal part that we saw being built up early on, and which will form part of the forward gear bay. Then we've got the housings for the wheels on the wings, and we've got some of the landing gear parts here, which are quite nicely, crisply moulded. Not quite to today's standard. So you know these parts here. I know there's a name and I forget it for now, but you know what I mean. They should be. Yeah, you can't really see the join detail. The bolts aren't there and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit basic by modern standards, and you know, same with that seat. Doesn't it look fairly basic? Although there's some nice little details on the side with wire cable runs and bits and pieces. Looks like there's quite a bit of flash on the fire extinguisher. Not quite sure what that is. But yeah, it looks like a fire extinguisher to me. And these parts, I can't see any sink though. So other than that bit of flash, I think everything else is okay. Clearly this is our nose wheel, and there is ejector pin marks on the tyres. Blimey. Yeah, because they've made it solid. Would have been better in two halves really, but anyway. So and they're sunk, so you're going to have to fill them and stuff. And not a difficult job, just a job you don't really want to do in it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. Some nice detail inside the landing gear doors, but you've got ejector pin marks to fill as well. But yeah, no major problems. Right, Sprue D, and we've got some larger ordnance and more pylons to go with it, and then the two large engine parts, engine outer housings. So all the panel lines on here are raised, and I'm assuming that's right, but part of me thinks it probably isn't. Don't know. I'm sure someone will in the comments point out whether this is just the limitations of moulding or not, but there was some countersunk lines on the fuselage, and that's what's making me suspect, you know, if everything's not raised, then probably what is raised should be raised. We've got quite softly moulded machine gun there. That looks quite basic, but the pilot looks nice and detailed. He's got his hand there like he's talking on his respirator there. He's got his sun shield down and his other hand resting on his leg. So yeah, and I don't see any ejector pin marks to fill. So we've got a fair amount of seam to tidy up, but that's all. So nice little figure. I would definitely be using the figure in this kit. I think that will add quite a bit to it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Just somehow feels a little basic one way or another. Right, Sprue B is upper wing surfaces. Yeah, you forget how chunky the wing is on this. It's got this quite a big curve of plastic there. It says copyright Tamiya 1991. So I don't know whether they changed some of these parts when they did this, but I thought they'd just reboxed. So we've got again lots of raised panel lines, and then we've got moulded in recesses for the flaps, which is why I think that must be right. But someone in the comments, please tell me whether these panel lines should be raised or not. We'll see next week when we review the Hobby Boss version, whether they've done it recessed or not. But I can feel fastener detail, all feels nice. There's no sink, nice and crisp. You know, for a moulding of this age, it's come out really well. Some nice detail on the inside there. Again, lots of little rivet detail and the like, so that's good. That's nice to see. Yeah, nothing wrong with those. And then, well, doesn't have a sprue number on this, so I'm guessing it's the same. But it's parts 3 and 4, but there's no sprue letter on it, but I'm guessing it's part of B. It was in the same bag, and it's the lower wing surfaces. So you've got location points for the pylons. Again, we've got panels slightly softly moulded, so the edge of the panel sort of flares out and graduates into the wing surface rather than being a sharp angled as best they can. So again, not to modern standards, but pretty good for the time. Bit of seam clean up once you put the two halves together. But I have no doubt that when you clunk these two together, they will fit together like a dream. How do I know this? Well, because it's Tamiya, that's how I know. I'm just seeing if we can roughly put one together. There you go. Perfect. No gaps. Just lovely. Yeah. So there you go. Right, let's show you some close-ups. Right, this is the last of our green coloured parts, sprue A, and we've got that bottom piece of the fuselage at the nose where the wheel goes in. Must be offset the wheel, that's interesting. Lots of little rivet detail and stuff around it, doesn't look so bad. Unfortunately, there's a bit of sink there, and you're going to lose your raised panel lines trying to sort it out, so you're probably not going to be able to. It's a shame. Don't know how obvious it'll be once you've matted it down. You'd have to see and make a decision. But if you've decided that you need to be scoring these lines in, then that makes the job a little easier, doesn't it? And then we've got the tail fins there, two-sided, lots of surface area to meet up, so that should be nice and easy. In fact, be careful not to put too much glue on and melt it because they are a bit thin. And then we've got right, so that's our panel where the ladder comes out, and there's a whopping big ejector pin right in the middle. Then we've got our ladder, which also has an ejector pin mark on it, and then the forward gear bay doors, which are nicely detailed and don't have ejector pins on it. And then we've got this piece, which I'm not quite sure where that goes, but I think that's the other half to it. So it's some form of, don't know, odd little thing. Anyway, yeah, not bad. Right, finally our clear parts, and what we've got is, this is separated. We've got the rear of the canopy, which has a texture where it needs to be painted. The frames are a good big frame, so easy to paint. A little bit of cleanup needed on the edge. And they've got some lines in it. Now, I wouldn't assume these are seams. I think these are something like heaters or something like that. You'd have to do your research and find out. And I'm not sure if we've got a little bit of spidering in there, but I think we have. I think we've got a little bit of spidering on that one side. Yeah. As for distortion, loads of it. Yeah, and the part's fairly thick, but not too bad, especially for the time. And then when we look on here, we've got our front part of the canopy. Again, nicely textured where we're going to be painting it. And the front panel is really clear with no distortion. And the side panels have got so much distortion, it's unreal. But that unfortunately is the shape at the time. No flow of plastic issues on that though. Then we've got a small number of clear parts, and this thing that went underneath that I wondered what it was is clear. So that makes me wonder even more what it is. I'm sure someone watching knows what that is. So if you'd like to put it in the comments for me to get myself educated, that would be brilliant. Thank you very much. But there you go. That's the clear parts. Not amazing, but not dreadful either. So there we have it, the United States Air Force Fairchild Republic A10A Thunderbolt II from Tamiya in 1:48 scale. What is my first impression? Well, we've reviewed a number of old Tamiya kits over the last few years on this channel, and I would say of all of them, this is the one that has not aged the best. I think this is probably showing its age more than anything else we've looked at. When you think about the SDKFZ 222, for example, that still stands up as a reasonably good kit. Whereas this is showing its age very much so, and just shows you how far we've come when it comes to detailing of in plastic moulding. So let's just do this a bit more deliberately, and then we'll talk about highlights and lowlights. So instructions, a little bit complex and crammed in, and no key, and black and white paint instructions. Yeah, not the best. Not the best. You've got a number of steps within a step, which tends to be Tamiya's way. And I thought particularly the painting instructions were very, very busy, making it a bit more challenging to work through there. But in terms of build flow, not too bad. So not bad instructions, but definitely not great instructions. Sort of 5 or 6 out of 10, I guess. When it comes to the plastic parts, they're all nice and crisp. There's no issues. So technically, they are presented as intended. So you'll be able to build this up without any fit issues. You've not got warped parts and tons of sink and oodles of flash you've got to scrape away. So in terms of the actual ability to build the kit, yeah, no problem at all. And you've got some nice detailing on there in places. And, you know, it feels a little bit basic compared to modern kits. But it's all sort of there. It's a bit soft moulded in places. But painted up, it will look reasonable. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it'll look reasonable. And, you know, clear parts, yeah, they're okay for the time as well. And as always with distortion, there's two things I'd say. Firstly, some of it will disappear when you put it on the kit and you've painted it up and you've got things you're looking at. You'd be surprised how much of it sort of appears to disappear. And also, you never really know, unless you've been in one of these cockpits, how much distortion there actually was in the real thing. So yeah. So from the point of view of that, yeah, it's okay. In this day and age, if Tamiya were bringing this out again in 2023, you'd want them to put some paint masks in for a start of a 10, and maybe redo the instructions so they're a little bit clearer. And you know, these days they put metal parts in and upgrade it, and they could probably do that with the machine gun on the front. You know, swap that out for a 3D printed part or something like that. And the funny thing that I wasn't sure what it was at the end of the plastic parts is this thing here. So yeah, I think painted up it'll look all right. What I'd say is highlights is you've got a fairly simple, well-engineered kit that will be easy to build. So great for youngsters, great for people fairly new to the hobby, or for people who are building up motor skills, or you know, need something more simple to build. This is great. There's plenty of detail in there and fairly simple construction. Low light, some of the detail is soft molded, and some of it's a bit scrappy. Some of the panel lines are a bit scrappy. So it's a little bit tatty around the edges. But there you have it. That's what you get if you buy Tamiya's very old now, aging Thunderbolt II kit, which isn't a 1991 kit, as you might be lulled into thinking from what they've printed on the instructions and even got on the plastic. It's 1977, and you can clearly see that when you open the box. Right, well, I hope that was interesting. If you're a fan of the Thunderbolt II, then tune in next week, same time, same day, and we'll have a look at another one, this time from Hobby Boss. Thanks for looking in. You enjoy your modelling, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.